Oh my God, we're back again. Yeah, it's the TDS boys. Get it in. We're here for week 8, start sit DFS. I got Hammer, the fifth Backstreet Boy, on board with
Whoa,
us today.
pause, pause. Don't put me in the middle of that shit. I'm good.
We got Hammer on board today again for another great start sit where we're going to go over some of the players that you might be interested in benching or starting today. We know that with so many injuries going on, people are going to have to plug and play a lot more than usual. Also, in case you're interested, we posted on the YouTube page a fantasy football waiver wire focus for week 8, covering mostly 50% owned or less players. I'm highlighting about 20 players in that one, just going over their opportunity shares and where I see them going forward for pretty much the rest of the year. And one thing that caught my eye before we get into everything was this Roto football tweet here that we see Packers maintaining interest for Fuller. Me and Hammer were talking about it, and for me personally, I'm a Fuller owner. I have shares, and I don't want to say Fuller owner, but I have shares in Fuller on my fantasy football teams. I'm personally, riding high because of him. He's been stealing most drafts, but I don't know how to feel if he goes to Green Bay, knowing that they're a run heavy team, that they already have Adams, and how is that target distribution going to work out? So that's something that really scares me, and it brings us into, I want to say, a good situation or a good conversation that we had about Woods and Cup. And Hammer, I'll let you get into that conversation because you said you were having it a little bit with some of your work colleagues about the Woods and Cup situation and how we felt about that to start the season.
This was a conversation that we had when we did our preseason rankings, and it pretty much has come true with exactly how I predicted it. When you have two legit receivers on a team, there's going to be distribution that can go up and down depending on the game plan, depending on the defense that you're seeing, depending on what the defense's game plan is. So one is always going to come out, or not always, but one will be hot one week, the other will be hot the following week. It all depends on the defense's game plan. And that's what we've been seeing a lot with 1-2 combinations when it comes to receivers in the league this year. And especially when it comes to the Los Angeles Rams with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods.
And if we look at it, Woods last week, I know for most people he tossed up a dud. He didn't really do well versus the Bears. And then when you look at it, he hasn't had 100 yards receiving since week 1, so that's really put him in a bad situation. The problem with the Rams is that we expect them to be more of a passing offense than they are now. They're an extreme heavy run offense, which is the reason why I get scared a bit when I hear Will Fuller being traded to the Packers, because the Packers are another run heavy offense. Although this year they're throwing the ball a little bit more, and Adams Doves has his injury concerns, as a Will Fuller stockholder, I'm scared. I'm hoping these rumors don't go through. I'm hoping that the Houston Texans hold on to him. But if I'm a Cooks owner, maybe he gets traded too. And then, this is a situation where we really want to monitor it, because if everyone gets traded from Houston, someone's going to have to step up, and they're going to get an insane amount of volume just because you're getting rid of so many top pass catchers. So I think this is a situation to watch on both ends to see, one, where these top guys end up, because it might be a good situation or a better situation for them, or two, it might be a situation where we're looking at, okay, who's replacing Fuller on Houston? Is this guy going to get enough volume for me to put him on my team? Because Deshaun Watson overall is a quarterback that, for the most part, I would say that he's trustable. Deshaun Watson isn't like Daniel Jones. He isn't like Sam Darnold, Drew Lock. He's not like these guys. He's a lot more trustable. So to me, this is going to be a huge thing to watch. Watching what happens at this trade deadline is going to be vital, because there's going to be some guys that aren't very owned that are going to be able to get more opportunity share than they had, and which could be, seriously like playoff heroes, as they say. Because let's face it, I had 1 year where Tim Hightower became the starting running back for the Saints. I was a 6th seed, won a championship. Gus Edwards 2 years ago took over, right? He became the lead back, right? He was dominating weeks 14, 15, 16, winning championships, okay? So these are players that we definitely want to keep our eyes on, because the upside is great. Now we got our first question in from Evan Sanchez or Irvin Sanchez. I'm sorry, Irvin. So you got Hollywood Brown or Robert Woods. This is a tough one. It's the tough one because Hollywood Brown. I'm just gonna pull up his stats so I can make sure that I give you the right because I do personally love Robert Woods. I think he has good upside and he's solidly safe, but we have to also factor in the fact he's not getting as many opportunities as he did to start the season, so that's lowering his total point production. Let's see here. I'm gonna pull up these points. Who are you thinking about on this one, Hammer? As I
I'm
pull up.
not even I'm not even hesitating to think about this. I'm gonna say Woods because the main problem that Baltimore has had this season has been with their receivers and their drops. We got to see consistency out there right now, and that's their major problem. And against a defense like um, Pittsburgh, they got a tough matchup today, and everybody is so excited to see this game. But like, I'm definitely looking more at Woods over Hollywood Brown today. Sorry, that's the reason that they brought in Des Bryant
Well,
as a
Des Bryant,
receiver.
no,
I
let's
don't
be
think
honest.
he's active today, anyways. But I feel that they needed help at receiver. I know during the offseason with the whole thing that was going on with Hollywood's cousin Antonio Brown that they were interested in trying to bring him to Baltimore, but obviously that didn't play out to the way they wanted it. But at this point, I think at least for this week, I would go with Woods over Hollywood Brown.
Well, right now we have Woods who's going to be facing Miami. If we look at Woods' last 3 games, okay, he scored 17 points in 1 point PPR leagues versus Washington. In that game, he had 4 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Versus San Francisco, he had 10 targets, but he only had 4 catches and a touchdown for 14 points. And then last week versus Chicago, which is the game that was frustrating to a lot of people, is that he had 3 catches for 22 yards. He had 4 rushes for 23 yards, but he fumbled the ball. Now, he put up a total of 5.5 points. It's his lowest outing of the season. It's his only second outing under 10 points. But considering that most people drafted Woods as a high wide receiver too, you're expecting more production. Now, if we take a look at a guy like Brown over his last couple of starts, he had 12.6 versus Washington, 4 catches for 86 yards. He has 6 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown versus Cincinnati. And then his last game versus Philadelphia had 4 catches for 57 yards. Now, I think the biggest question here with the Ravens is going to be how this game flow works out. Because if they're able to take a lead early, they're going to lean on the run and they're going to lean on their defense. So they're going to be more of a ball control game. They're going to try to milk the clock, and it's not going to be too many opportunities downfield for Brown. But you can say the same exact thing for Woods because in that game versus Miami, they're going to try to run the ball, get to a lead early, and then just control the clock. That's what the Rams have been doing all year long. They are a running team. So it's a tricky situation. I just do think that maybe Brown has a better shot to score because he does have his big playability. Brown, though, has 3 games under 10. He has a 15. I mean, he has a 9.2, a 3.3, and a 9.7. So we could say that Woods is probably a little bit safer. He's probably the easier guy to slide into your lineup with less hesitations. But I do think that we have to factor in Marquise Brown has big playability. Any week he can go to the house on a big shot. So
What was the conversation we had last week in regards to the not the Browns, the Chiefs and the who did the Chiefs play last week? The Chiefs and the Broncos. What was a major factor in that game last week?
game flow and the snow.
Exactly. So here's another thing where I'm giving Robert Woods an upside in regards to one, the matchup. His matchup against Miami for Woods is 2 stars. The opponent matchup rating against Pittsburgh is 5-star, clearly. Weather-wise, he's going to be playing in Miami, 85-degree weather, while Hollywood Brown is going to be playing in the rain.
It's going to be raining in Baltimore?
Yes. So there's something to take into consideration as well right now is that weather factor.
That's a huge factor.
So here's where I see where you're going with it and why you would potentially say Brown. But here are factors right here that are clearly laying it out for Wood should be the go-to today.
Now, again, it's not saying that Brown can't outscore Woods. It definitely can. But based on those factors, yeah, you would have to start Woods over Brown just because, again, that rain situation lends to being a sloppy game. one that you normally don't see as many, deep balls being thrown and as many wide receivers really going out and having big days. The big thing that I talked about last week is I was afraid of the game flow because of the way the weather broke down for Pat Mahomes. And Pat Mahomes had his worst game of the season last week. Bar none, worst game of the season. And that happens. It happens. You cannot avoid it. Sometimes you can avoid it by making a plug and play. But a guy like Pat Mahomes, you can't. You're not taking Mahomes out of the lineup ever, unless he's hurt or unless you have Lamar Jackson on your bench. Like, you're not taking Mahomes out. So it's a situation where, if the weather is raining in Baltimore, I mean, it makes me want to lean more to. Do we know if Mark Ingram's playing or not? Do you have that information as well, Hammer?
Give me 1 second. Pull it up. I just had the inactives before Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, he's not showing as an inactive, but I do believe from things I was listening to Anita Marks yesterday, I believe she said Mark Ingram is out.
Now,
don't quote me.
If Mark Ingram is out, obviously we're going to look at Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are going to be the two main backs. It feels as though they're trying to get J.K. Dobbins the rock, but they don't forget about Gus Edwards. I think we could be looking at a pure 50-50 timeshare. But if you were to tell me of the two, I would probably want J.K. Dobbins as my starter this week. And daily, I think that's a good place to go, especially if it's going to be a rain game. They'll be able to get some good focus. Now, the only issue with that is the Steelers are good against the run. They're not as good against the pass. As we've seen from some of the stats, even week one, Slayton was putting up numbers worse than him, but Saquon Barkley couldn't do anything. So that's one thing that we're going to have to factor in. I think last week we saw the Titans. They were getting them downfield. A.J. Brown went off. Corey Davis was moving the ball. They had a shot to tie it and push it to overtime last time. Why? They were throwing the ball on the Steelers. So it's not like the Steelers can't be thrown upon. They can. It's just really going to be a matter of weather, I think, in that game. If everything was even and it was a clear weather game, I would start Hollywood Brown, to be honest. I just love his upside, and I think that the Pittsburgh secondary isn't that great. They're much better against the run, statistically speaking. Now, one thing that we love to cover here is our daily sports. Okay, we love the plug and play type variety that you get here. Last couple of weeks, I've been playing even. Like I said, I mainly play the $4 contest. I show you guys everything that I'm doing and that I'm playing. Hammer runs his lineups too. He set a couple of lineups last week as we went over this. So we like to give you a perspective of some of the guys. We had a big debate last week between Herbert, Tannehill, and Josh Allen. Josh Allen was the most expensive and performed the worst. Like Josh Allen tossed up a dud.
Let's just go long. Let's go long story short. Who won that great debate?
Herbert came in first, and then Tannehill came in second, and then last was Josh Allen. But it wasn't really like a huge difference between Herbert, although Herbert had a fucking great game, and Tannehill. Tannehill still ended up with like 3 touchdowns. He put up numbers, Tannehill, so it's not like Tannehill threw up a dud. It's just that Herbert had an insane game, but Josh Allen, Josh Allen is someone that's scaring me now. And long term, I'm really worried about Diggs and Brown, because the completion percentage of Josh Allen has reduced significantly over the last couple of starts. Ever since the Raiders game, I want to say, when he left it with the hand injury, he's seen a downcrease in his passing accuracy, and it's enough that it's noticeable across the board for Josh Allen. Now, when I pull it up here, let me see if I can pull up my upcoming. So I set a quick lineup, and again, the reason why I love FanDuel is they give you so many free contests. I'm into this one for free again. It didn't really cost me anything. I'm again rolling with Tannehill. No question about it. Giovanni Bernard, I kind of got talked out of it last week, and he was a stud. Gio put up numbers. He looked like a RB1, especially at mixing down. He has the high safety now, catching passes. So that's definitely something to monitor. And if you look at his starting price, $5,900, it's really nice. Gaskins. Okay, the Rams are going to be a tough matchup for him, but at 5,700 and his volume share with Tua being there as his first game, I really expect him to lean on the run here, and I'm expecting a good game for Gaskins as far as volume is concerned. I don't really know how good his production is going to be, but the volume is going to be there, and I'm going to take it. AJ Brown, what more can we say about AJ Brown? The guy is a stud. Ever since
Yep.
he's come back, he's been blowing up.
Yep.
And the buy low is over on him. He's established himself clearly as being a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy. If we remember what he did second half last year, he was a beast. So he's someone that I got this week as well, stacking up with Tannehill versus that porous Cincinnati defense. I got the what is it? Devontae Adams. Just because, I mean, if we saw him last week, I started him last week, blew up for me. I think Minnesota's defense is not the same as it used to be, and that Minnesota secondary is really not that strong. So again, I'm rolling with Adams. Keenan Allen has been the favorite target of young Justin Herbert, who has been balling out lately. I don't think anyone expected the performance that he had last week, where he just totally manhandled the Jags. But I'm shocked the Jags
did
so well.
I did. I told you
like,
against that Jags defense, he was going to blow up. 3 touchdown passes. He ran in for one as well, and he's playing against another trash defense in Denver today. He's about to light it up against them. He's definitely about to light it up against the Donkeys today, too.
I mean, I think there's a good chance that he has a really good game as well in this matchup. The only thing that was scaring me in that Jacksonville game is that I didn't expect Jacksonville to score like that. Jacksonville was scoring enough to keep them having to throw the ball, which was insane to me because I don't think the Jacksonville offense is that good. But man, that boy James Robinson played on another level, and I think that's the biggest difference, and that's the reason why they were in that game. Because
he was one that was talked about last week. That was set to go off last weekend against
the Chargers.
Yeah, they said he was supposed to put up some good numbers last week.
Yeah, but like, wow, though. He was wow. I was shocked. It reminds me of what happened with Rojo. Rojo had a great game versus the Chargers as well. So it seems like you're really able to run against the Chargers, or at least it seems. And if that's the case, then we might be looking at a big game for maybe Lindsey. Okay. Darren Waller. Waller the baller. Last week, he did solid. As a tight end, he's one of the most solid guys out here versus Cleveland. This is a must-win situation. Wind is apparently going to be a factor in this game, which does lead me to think that they might be going more to Jacobs, who's been a huge disappointment this year, and short passes to Waller. So I think that's going to be interesting. As we're here talking about the Raiders, and I have Mr. Raider Nation on with us, how you feeling about your boy Jacobs? Is it me or is he regressing? Is he regressing?
We had the conversation last week. I don't know if he's necessarily regressing, but it's like the line has changed every single week this season with injuries. We've had Incognito out for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Brown was out for excuse me. Brown was out for a while, and then all of a sudden he came back, and then idiot pulls the COVID, not wearing a COVID bracelet, and put some other guys at risk on some dumb shit. So it's been difficult, and I've always said this when it comes to an offense: if your line don't work, the offense don't work. So,
but
I don't want to necessarily say it's him.
Carr is balling though. Carr
he is. His accuracy is top in the league right now. He's doing good things. But
last year he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks.
Like, his problem right now is when he's breaking the pocket. You got to secure the ball, DC. You have to secure the ball. You've had 4 fumbles already this year.
Yeah.
15 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, not bad. But the fumbles, you got to cut that shit out.
I mean, at least he's not fumbling like dating times. Oh God.
Help you.
The fumbles from that kid is like you would think that he'd be able to clean it up some. Like you would think he'd be able to clean it up some, but so far not happening. And then the last guy that I have on my daily is Tevin Coleman. And Tevin Coleman should be back this week for the 49ers in a very, very run-heavy offense. In that offense right now, we're seeing pretty much two wide receivers have been able to be secure or safe. I would say you have Kittle, who obviously is a tight end, but he's the guy that catches the ball out wide, and you have a Juke, who is a rookie that I didn't expect for him to do as good as he's been doing, but wow, they make sure they get this kid the ball, and he's a dynamic playmaker.
Who is that? The receiver Ayuk?
Yep, Ayuk.
Yeah, he right now is the start of the week.
Yeah, I'm starting him in one of my leagues. The thing I love about him, he has good volume, and he's really cheap right now, especially with and daily. I think he was 5,600. One thing about Ayuk that we have to look at is Debo Samuels is super injury prone and he's out again with the hamstring. We should be seeing him, I think, out maybe 2 to 3 weeks. So over this next period of time, Ayuk is going to be someone that you definitely want to plug and play because they'll either get him the ball rushing or they'll get him the ball passing. They like getting him in short plays where he could just basically get the ball moving. So, you see him running drags, you'll see him running slants where it's just a quick little motion. You get him the ball and you let him go run with it. So that's a guy that you love to have in your lineup and try to snag if he's available. So that's definitely someone that I'm looking at as a good value, especially this week and going forward in regular fantasy. Is there any players that you think that we haven't touched on that you're interested in or that you see you would like to talk about, Hammer, before we go into this week 8? Any start de jours for our viewers?
Brandon Ayuk definitely is against such a suspect secondary in Seattle. I definitely think he could have a good game today.
I agree.
My other receiver would be Nelson Aguilar of the Vegas Raiders, baby.
Now,
Since week 3, what?
I was going to say, does the weather conditions over there scare you a little bit? Because I am starting Aguilar in my 14-team league, and my co-manager there has been blowing me up saying, yo, maybe we need to move off of Nelson because the weather situation here is kind of like the same situation that we saw in KC last week with the snow. Can Carr really cut through that wind and get the ball downfield to Aguilar? Do you think he has
We
enough
had it.
arm strength?
I'm praying to God that he does because we had that issue. Realistically, we had that issue when I was at MetLife last year when they played the Jets and got their asses handed to them in the rain. Like, more than half of that stadium was filled with Black Hole Nation. And apparently, former Jet Jamal Adams really was in his feelings about that. I think he might have heard me too, because where we were sitting, I was right above the tunnel and I was letting them have it. So apparently, they got into the locker room after pregame warmups and felt some type of way and came out with a fire on their ass. And that poor rain it was a terrible game. I watched Tyrell Williams drop at least three balls, which I was just like, this is why I didn't want him in the first place. But I think they should be okay today. Like I said, with Aguilar, since week 3, he's played over 83% of the snaps and actually leads the receiving corps right now with 250 snaps played. He's starting in place of Bryan Edwards, who's still out. There's no timetable when he's coming back. Last week, he blew up 5 and 9 targets for a season best 107 yards, and he's been actually producing for a while. Carr has looked at him a lot when it's come to deep throws, and the same has gone for Ruggs since Ruggs has been back in the lineup. He scored a touchdown and double-digit fantasy points in each of the Raiders' past 3 games. There's an excellent chance that the streak is going to go at 4 against a Brown secondary that's been struggling. They've allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers so far this season. So there's a good chance that him and Ruggs could put some serious work in today.
But before we get into that, we got a new update. Generally not a big worry of weather. I've seen big GMs in bad weather and bad GMs in perfect weather, games in perfect weather. That said, from Cleveland, you could see hair being blown back because it's so windy. So again, this is something that we really got to monitor. This is going to be a bad weather game. And again, in bad weather games, we have to we have to really monitor it because this can really affect this passing game. And if we've seen the one thing about Aguilar is he's caught these balls downfield, which gives him that big playability, gives him those touchdowns. So this is one thing. And again, this is just from only 7 minutes ago. So this is a live active report. We don't know how the weather is going to be once it kicks off at 1. If you're in a situation where you really don't have anything else, it's a good play. But you are putting yourself in a more risky situation. This seems like to me it's going to be a big game for Richard. It's going to be a big game for Waller. It's going to be a big game for Jacobs. They're going to do short dump offs. They're going to do running plays. They're going to do some misdirections. It does make me a little bit worried about Ruggs and Aguilar. It makes me think that they may have to do some sort of trick plays, some end around, some reverses to get them the ball. But that's just my opinion on what's going on here, just based on the weather, because again, like we said last week, weather can definitely factor into it and be reasons why we downgrade players. Now, Abdullah had sent us a message here. Harris, Fournette, Jackson at flex, but I already have Rob and Rojo starting. Now, Rojo, I know Jackson. I'm assuming Justin Jackson, Leonard Fournette. I'm assuming Damian Harris, Rob. Who's Rob? Is that
No,
is that A Rob?
I wish he would specify, but with those three, with Fournette, Justin Jackson, and Damian Harris, I'm going with Leonard Fournette today.
Um,
Against such a terrible Giants defense. Your boys, the G-men. I
well,
would
I mean, their
definitely take
defense
Fournette.
hasn't like I know everyone's saying the terrible Giants defense, but they haven't really been terrible. As far as it goes. Okay, so it's Gronk. You're talking about okay, Gronk. So you have okay, so it's Harris, Fournette, Jackson at flex, but you have okay, Rob Gronkowski and Rojo starting. Okay, so now that's an interesting one. Now, would you start Rojo or Fournette? I think it's getting close. I think we're seeing Fournette is getting more work on the passing down. Rojo is being more of
Yep.
a rusher. I would say that if you're in a 1 point PPR, it wouldn't be bad if you start both Rojo and Fournette, because I do expect them to run heavily. It's a game where you're not going to have Godwin, you're not going to have Brown. It's going to be mainly Evans and Miller. And the Giants secondary has been pretty solid. Bradbury's been one of the best quarterbacks in the game so far. So I don't think that that's a terrible play. Harris is an interesting guy to me because he should be, especially in a game where you're missing so many of your top pass catchers, he should be a really viable running back this week. I just want to take a quick look at some of his stats here. He expects to play averaging 11 carries per game, but only 2 targets. I would say this. I would go with I would go with starting. See, I hate to say it, but I would pretty much start all your Tampa guys because if you have Rob in there, he's better than most tight ends, so that's just a given. Rojo and Fournette probably have the most upside out of all these guys, just because Jackson's in a weird situation. We don't know how it breaks down with Kelly, and both haven't looked good. And Harris is more of a situation where, again, we don't know what to expect. All right. And we're wrapping up on this last question here. What defense do you like this week, Seahawks or Bears? Seahawks defense has been crap this year. There's no way to put
Facts.
it.
There's no more Legion of Boom.
They've been crap. So you're hunting for a big play, but at the end of the day, it's really all about I would say trying to score points, trying to be safe, trying to get some sacks and interceptions, and the Bears probably have a better chance. Again, the Seahawks are facing the 49ers, so it's not even like they have an easy matchup.
All right. So if I have to go with the two, I just had to. I know you're going with the Bears, but you got to do it the right way when you do the Bears. So I'm gonna have to do it for you. The Bears. The Bears defense today, buddy. You got this.
Yep. And no
Oh,
problem.
you know what?
And so just make sure you give us a follow, buddy. We'll be doing these every single week as we have been doing them. I'm putting them on YouTube more as well, just so that we can get you guys active. But yeah, we got you covered. And if you have any other future questions, feel free to drop us a line. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We respond to all our direct messages. And yeah, man, I wish you best of luck this week.
With
All
what
right.
you had said about before we run out of here, with what you had said about Gronk, this has been another question that's been in different fantasy groups throughout the week. And this is the one thing that I've said to people and people seem to understand this immediately now. Gronk was retired, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Gronk came into a new team, no training camp, no preseason. These first few weeks was his preseason. And when it comes to Tom Brady in his career, he always gets hot in November and December. Watch and wait and watch to see what happens with Gronk the rest of the way. He has been more of a red zone target, which we saw coming with all the weapons that Tampa already had going into the season. And now Antonio Brown will be finally making his debut in Tampa next week. Keep Gronk, because somebody was asking, "Oh, do I get rid of Gronk now?"
You don't
No,
get
he is getting hot right now. Mark my words. I didn't have him remotely in my top 5 for tight ends, but he's going to get hot right now. Just wait and see.
I will say this though. I will say this: if Dallas Goddard is on your waiver wire, which he is in most cases, he was in only picked up in 47% of leagues yesterday. I think he's up to 52. But honestly, he's a guy that I would grab up. I think he's going to be much better than a Gronk long term. Gronk's biggest problem is going to be he's going to have some good games, some bad games, but it's going to be very dependent on what happens to that offense. When you're fully healthy, you're talking about Godwin, Brown, Evans with Fournette and Rojo in your team. It's just stacked. It's just too stacked. So he's someone that I do scare about. If you're able to trade him and get yourself an upgrade like a Waller, I would do that. If you can get a Mark Andrews, Kittle, I would do that. But to me, I think Waller's probably going to be the easiest bet because he doesn't seem to get the same kind of love that a lot of people think that I think he should be deserving. He's a top 3, top 4 tight end. But yeah, as we're gonna wrap it up here, Hammer has to head out. I see just 2 quick questions came in, so we'll answer them super quick. What running back would you play for San Francisco, Seattle? Honestly, I do like Coleman, but I don't know exactly what kind of workload Coleman's going to get. If I'm not starting Coleman, I'm going after Hasty. On the other side, DJ Dallas should be getting the primary work out of Seattle, and he's the guy that I'm adding there. And then Justin
Jefferson or Higgins? I'm going with Jefferson.
Yeah,
Jefferson.
Definitely agree with you there. Again, guys, I want to thank you so much. Make sure you bring your questions. We're going to be live same time next week. We're going to make sure that we get you guys ready for the games between covering weather, matchups, and opportunity. That's the way we do it. The boys are back. We're making sure we get you ready for the playoffs. I'm going to be amping up some more content for you guys, just in regards to getting you fantasy wire ready. And we'll be covering matchups every week again. Hammer, lead us out for the fellas and the ladies out there giving us a watch. We thank everyone for their views, and Hammer, round this out, buddy.
Yo, you know what it is. Wash your hands and your asses. We are out.
Peace.